Blair White does here is just incomprehensible weasel language.
I don't know that I think this person's grifting. I think he's probably legitimately offended by literally everything.
Doyle and Witzke's politics are an explicit function of the bigotry they'd like to see codified in law.
I absolutely will not vote for a party that treats LGBT people like they are subhuman.
Carlin is, in all senses of the word, a boring grifter. Blair White's videos about trans people are not as explicit as you might expect. Her work can be understood as a kind of collage of anti-trans discourse.
The craziest thing is, he at least was semi-honest about, like, these people. And then it's her turn. The pro-LGBT. Whose side are you on, Joel? In hell.
No.
Got Big Joel, Blair White, and the fiction of conservative debate. Now, I'm going to be honest up front. I'm not a fan of Big Joel. He comes across like a bit of an obfuscator. He comes across as like someone who kind of avoids points rather than deals with them, from what I've seen. But at the same time, we're good faith. We listen, we learn, we try and understand. I have a feeling this is going to be about Lauren Witzke. I have seen the Lauren Witzke thing. Yeah, look. I mean, listen, she didn't say, please accept me as the one good trans. Only people that listen to people like Big Joel say things like this. And then Lauren, there's no such thing. So this is going to be about Lauren Witzke. Like, by the way, who the f*** is Lauren Witzke? Who's Blair White? You've heard of one of them and not the other. So it kind of feels like whatever he thinks about this terrible debate, Blair White is kind of won, in my opinion, at least. But yeah, let's see.
Hey everybody, today we're going to be talking about a debate hosted on the channel Slightly Offensive called Christian Conservatives Battle Pro-LGBT Republicans. The conversation is between four conservative thinkers: Lauren Witzke, John Doyle, Karlin Borisenko, and Blair White.
Yeah, so more or less, you've got the more kind of staunch conservatives on this side. In the middle, these are a bit more liberal, I guess you could say.
And it seeks to explore one question: what is the future of the Conservative Party? Or rather, what should it be? As the description of the video reads, and I kid you not, how do we overcome the woke cancel culture left that has spread through our society like cancer? Do we return to traditional conservative Christian values, or create a bigger tent secular party that turns a blind eye to degeneracy and immorality?
So there's kind of a bias. Hang on. In how this is worded. There's clearly a leaning towards the first and not the latter, suggesting that Karlin and Blair are saying that, yeah, we should ignore degeneracy and immorality. They probably don't see themselves as like LGBT people as degenerate and immoral. So it's kind of it's a bizarre way of writing it.
A bigger tent secular party that turns a blind eye to degeneracy and immorality. I honestly have never seen a description for a video that is this cursed in my life, and the video itself is just so much worse. So most of the time, I try to make
It's really not that bad. It's like any debate.
Videos that are, at least to some extent, clever. I have some hot take that I hope is original, and I spend my whole time arguing that that take is good and frankly epic. This, however, is not one of those videos.
I hate BreadTube. I'm just going to say it. I hate BreadTube. This is like Xanderhal, but worse. And it's from 2021, so I don't think it's going to have aged very well, especially because Blair White has just continued to keep going up and up. Whatever happens in this debate, Blair White is still maintained, fucking hell. Blair White has maintained her career, her trajectory. She has not, in fact, had her face eaten by the leopards. But let's see what he's saying.
Videos. I don't have something particularly novel to say about this debate. Nothing you probably wouldn't have thought about if you saw it yourself. But I'm making it anyway. This conversation was honestly an eye-opener for me. It is so strange, awful, chaotic, and kind of poignant in the worst way imaginable. And
Blair was trying to reach and persuade people in a very right-wing audience. I mean, that's what she does. Like, how many conservatives has she probably moved to less anti-trans positions? Probably an awful lot, you know what I mean? Maybe you reached a few of them, who knows? Yeah.
For that reason, I just want to talk about it. Bear witness to this surreal moment and share it with you. So that's what's about to happen, and I hope—
I don't know what was even surreal about it. Like, yeah, if you're gonna debate conservatives, you're gonna come across the odd person that is like extremely fundamentalist and will not accept anything to do with trans. That's just how, that's what to expect, honestly. So I'm curious as to what is so egregious to this person.
Hope you find something meaningful there. And with
My guess, listen, I've seen it already. My guess is that she didn't push back enough, which, I don't know. Does she have to? Ultimately, it kind of seems like she won anyway, so.
With that, let's get started.
I hate this. I hate the way he writes. The content I'm working on with today, fuck me. The content I'm working with today is just so dark. Like, just write like a normal person, please. I know you're a fucking bread tuber.
As the name of the video would imply,
Sorry, I'm trying to be nice.
this debate is broken into two factions. On the Christian conservative side, we have Lauren Witzke and John Doyle. Lauren Witzke, a politician who ran a failed Senate race in Delaware, is about as far right as a person can go. She is staunchly against abortion, gay marriage, trans people, etc.
We also have a transgender on here. I don't really
We hit all the basic bitch feminist things. Nice.
think we should be giving a platform to this kind of degeneracy, which is a gateway drug to pedophilia.
She is for her vision of Christianity, the re-legalization of conversion therapy, the white working class.
We could have been going after the working class, the white working class, the Christian working class,
Something to bear in mind, by the way. Is this still like what right-wing politics seems to be about in America? Has it kind of gone down this road? Or does it seem to have maybe gone a bit more down this road? Just think about that.
I do agree.
religiously.
She is also, at least according to the Daily Beast, a flat earther and former QAnon conspiracy theorist. John Doyle is a semi-successful conservative YouTuber sitting at around 300,000 subs. Not as many as me. Think about that. Eat my shit, John Doyle.
All of you need to get me to more subs than this guy. Like, seriously, if someone like this can rake in over 1 million views and God knows how much money, talking about something that they barely understand, I should be doing way better than this guy, I'm just saying.
Within the debate, most of his purpose seems to be agreeing with everything Lauren says to a T. He is also quite a bit more articulate and even-handed than she is. He speaks with a kind of intellectual affect throughout the debate as he describes how he, like the majority of conservative voters, is economically populist and socially authoritarian.
If you look at where his
Is that even true? Is that even what most right-wing voters are like?
voters actually sit on the political spectrum. They're not the right-wing libertarians that a lot of big donors would like the party to be. They're actually basically authoritarian in the center. And so if you look at where they poll on issues such as like gay marriage versus traditional marriage or like transgender bathroom issues, like whatever, they're all like very, I guess you'd say authoritative and conservative in that they're in support of traditional and socially conservative policy.
When did last upload? Sorry, I'm trying to get to the point.
Hey everybody.
Shut up. I'm trying to get to the point of this video, but let's have a look. 4 weeks ago, and then 6 months ago, and then 9 months ago, and then a year ago. He almost never uploads. Nice. Amazing. He still had a post-COVID audience in 2021. Would I watch a Flat Earth video? I don't know how I would even begin to take Flat Earth seriously, but I could try. Yeah, a lot of this is quite old. Spent a lot of time talking about PragerU, Jordan Peterson, the basic leftoid stuff of the time, you know. He's a basic leftoid. That's all there is to it. Wait, no, there isn't. I'm good faith. I'm totally going to enjoy Big Joel's perspective.
Policies.
John Doyle rejects liberalism and embraces full-throated belief in the beauty of natural hierarchy, the enforcement of what he sees as normative Christian values.
Because fundamentally, the idea of like LGBT issues is about the enshrinement of total equality, which is fundamentally not a conservative idea. Conservatives believe in hierarchy and natural law.
In other words, Doyle and Witzke's politics are an explicit function of the bigotry they'd like to see codified in law. That is...
He was basically saying what is correct about these people, and then as soon as it turns to his time to give his opinion, it's automatically just, oh, bigotry, blah, blah, blah. Like, how many buzzwords can we knock off? Amazing. This person seems a bit worthless to me so far, no offense. Why would I need this person's interpretation on this, except as a vibe check, which is literally what this is, you know?
most of what they represent. On the other side, we have what I'll charitably call the pro-LGBT Republicans, Karlin Borisenko and Blair White. Karlin is, in all senses of the word, a boring grifter. Her claim to fame is a
What? A boring... like... The craziest thing is, he at least was semi-honest about, like, these people. And then it's her turn. The pro-LGBT. Whose side are you on, Joel? In hell.
PragerU video that is vapid and meaningless even by PragerU standards. It's about how she was a Democrat.
Like, this is a PragerU video. We're supposed to be talking about her. Like, what she's about. She read a fucking script for PragerU. I probably thought this was dumb as well. I can't remember it.
Who even gave money to Bernie Sanders until she went to a single Donald Trump rally. The MAGA people were nice, unlike the mean Dems, and the rally had so much energy.
Whereas the event for the president was full of optimism and enthusiasm, the Democrats' event was all doom and gloom.
And for these reasons, she now loves Donald Trump. Blair White, our final participant, is, well, she's Blair White, known conservative trans lady who talks about issues in the trans community. Of course, we will speak about Blair White more. Her interactions with Lauren Witzke are the center of this video, but let's put a pin in her description for just a second. All in all, Borisenko and White represent the moderate liberal conservative perspective. They do not or are
I explained this earlier in about 5 words. It was so much quicker. Come on, Joel. Up your game.
not supposed to define their politics by way of bigotry. They are fine with the gays. You know, I think a lot of the tension in this debate comes from the aesthetic differences between its actors, the audiences these people are trying to appeal to, and the rhetoric they use to do it. As I said before, John Doyle and Lauren Witzke are pretty transparent about their beliefs. The language Witzke in particular uses throughout this debate is
What, we're going to pretend that Blair White is not transparent about her beliefs? Is that what we're going to do?
openly hateful and
That seems like horribly bad faith, but hey, let's see.
cruel. She makes no attempt to hide her convictions, her hatred of trans people, of gay people, of Donald Trump's
Pro-gay right are the much bigger threat to Joel. I guess in a way they are, because people that vote Dem are much more likely to slip away and start voting Republican. You know what I mean? This kind of stuff, the Lauren Witzke, John Doyle stuff, is fairly, like, extreme. Like, not many people think like these people do. And they're not gonna represent, like, the Republicans are a big tent party. They're not very well represented by someone like Lauren Witzke or John Doyle, it turns out.
Globo Homo Initiative.
Yeah, so, Donald Trump, he did do things that made the church have to make excuses for him. His Globo Homo Initiative ended up losing him a significant amount of the Christian vote.
I have a hard time imagining a lot of people being convinced by what she has to say, and that's kind of the point. Witzke is a conservative's conservative, a rallying point, a beacon of anger and bigotry. She doesn't have to be worried about optics. Blair White, on the other hand, is all optics. I hesitated before to describe her politics because to
Is that true?
some extent, they are hidden within her work. Blair almost exclusively talks about trans people. She doesn't give her perspective on the way the government ought to work, on race, on
Is that true?
capitalism, etc. And so it's hard to know exactly where she stands on these
She
issues.
doesn't talk about capitalism. She's probably basically fine with it. She doesn't have to.
I'll say that I, for one, was surprised to learn during this debate that she thinks that Biden most likely stole the election.
I'm also one of those people that, I don't know, this might have to be edited out for YouTube, but I'm not completely convinced that the election was won by Biden by completely legitimate means. So
We can say it was
I
borrowed.
think
It's just not the sort of thing you'd expect her to say out loud. And even
Why not? She's in a room with other right-wing people. That's the most likely time, especially if she's trying to appeal to any of these people, trying to appeal to the other side's humanity or something. Yes, that's probably a more likely time for her to fucking say something like that. What are you on about? What is he talking about? Blair is very conservative. Yeah, I don't know. Leftoid stuff. All you have to do is show a thing that's bad in your opinion and say thing bad, and you can get over 1 million views and an entire ass fucking cult in your comments section.
Blair White's videos about trans people are not as explicit as you might expect. Her work can be understood as a kind of collage of anti-trans discourse. One week she'll talk about drag queens.
God forbid she's allowed any opinions of her own as a conservative trans person. Like, Jesus Christ. Why do I waste so much of my time saying, oh, I'm trying to be good faith, I'm trying to listen to these people and understand what they say, when they do not extend the same respect to someone like Blair White? Not by a fucking inch.
Reading to children. The next about how the trans community is trying to force people out of their genital preferences. The next, she'll talk about children transitioning and detransitioning. The next, she'll talk about trans women in sports. The next, she'll talk about trans trenders, and so
She talks about transition, like, she is fucking why is he acting like any of this is, like, weird or surprising somehow?
on and so on. Now, all of these issues
Isn't it weird these people accuse everyone else of grifting? Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I think this person's grifting. I think he's probably legitimately offended by literally everything. I doubt this is much of a grift. But I mean, we're almost 8 minutes so far. There's been no points. What points has Joel made so far? Everything he said, I could have summarized in about a minute.
Are certainly deserving of full breakdowns, but here I want to look at the bigger picture. It's been said many times before, but emphasis is the most primary tool of propaganda, where our gaze is placed, the ideas it is telling us to care about. And in the case of Blair White, that emphasis is always placed exclusively on the pathology of the trans community. It all comes together to
Yeah, she's noticed issues that the wider community or whatever refuses to engage with. Like, Jesus Christ.
say, without ever really saying it, that while trans
He looks like the Pos version of like posed up Mr. Girl. Don't you think? He looks like Poscore Mr. Girl. I don't know if I'm using that term correctly. But like the friendly version of Mr. Girl. You know what I mean? The friendly Mr. Girl. Anyway.
trans people are not the disease, a group of people who we must eradicate.
That's not what she's saying. She hasn't said that in any way, shape, or form. I've watched lots of Blair White videos. I agree with some. I agree less with others. But that's not what she says. That's not what she's about.
In some way. They are, as a group, diseased. So in this conversation then, we have two very different worlds of discourse coming into contact. One surrounds explicit claims, a lack of subtlety, a hammer of conservatism. The other is oriented around the implicit, the unstated, the palatable.
I don't know how you can make that claim, but okay. You haven't shown that, but whatsoever. Like, what you're saying is implicit, is what you're reading. But if you're wrong, then you're kind of fucked, so I don't know.
And this difference informs so much of how this debate works. So with that in mind, let's dive in and look at what I think is the most important moment of the debate. Fair warning, what I'm about to show you is kind of long and extremely heavy on the transphobia.
How many children saw her and looked at her and said, you know what, she looks really good. I could do that too, and started transitioning. This is about the children. They're coming for our kids, and we are at a point now where we're going to have to take a stand. Will the party go the way of the LGBTQ?
What Lauren said about children maybe watching my YouTube videos and thinking that they can be like me, or
She sounds quite anxious here, honestly. I'd kind of like if they were a bit kinder, honestly. Fuck me. I'm in the same cave looking for minors. I'm not saying that. That's a song.
BTQ.
what Lauren said about children maybe watching my YouTube videos and thinking that
Like, to me, I can hear, like, she sounds quite nervous and quite anxious. Like, I don't know if we're going to make any kind of claim about, like, how she's feeling and stuff. It kind of seems like this is probably quite nerve-wracking based on who she's talking to.
they can be like me or transition or whatever. I don't really know how much you know about me, but I'm probably the most vocal anti-children transitioning person on the internet. It's what I'm.
Right.
So Lauren's point will be, oh, Blair looks good, they're trans, I should trans too if they watch her videos. She's saying that she kind of advises against all of that. Which, I mean, the thing is, anyone putting anything out on the internet could have an influence on someone that you're not ready for that, you know? Some kids could watch my fucking shit and for some reason decide they should be like me, which, if you're trying to be like me, that's your first fucking problem already. Just saying. But, like, there's a lot of stuff that Lauren is kind of putting on Blair that is really not her fault or her responsibility. And I would definitely disagree with anyone saying trans people shouldn't speak online because kids might hear it and want to transition. Like, that's nuts to me. Like, I don't think that kids should not have to listen. I don't know, actually. Let me think about that.
I like to speak.
The best thing you can do for us is grow out your mustache and tell people not to live like you. That is the best thing that you can do to help us. Because
Christ
we're not
love,
living.
Christ love, wafting off Lauren, Christ love.
Yikes. Wow. So
And me personally, I think Blair took that with dignity. There's over 100 people watching for the first time ever. Thank you all so much. Listen, like the stream. Anyway.
in this situation, even as Witzke is totally unhinged, abusive, disgusting, and incorrect, the argument she's making is extremely simple, right? It has two steps. Step one, trans people are bad, period. They are very, very bad in a huge number of ways. Step two, we therefore should not tolerate the existence of trans people, and that obviously includes Blair White. In response to this charge, Blair tries to aim at the second step there. She says, wait, I'm not supportive of people being trans. I don't think anybody who watches my content could ever get that message.
What Lauren
Well, no, that's a fair comeback. Well, I speak out against that shit. So they really shouldn't be getting that, what's the word? They shouldn't be coming to that conclusion from me because I'm speaking out against it. That's a perfectly fine rebuttal.
Lauren said about children maybe watching my YouTube videos and thinking that they can be like me or transition or whatever. I don't really know how much you know about me, but I'm probably the most vocal anti-children transitioning person on the internet.
This is, I think, a pretty bad argument. I'm not trying to say here that—
I disagree. I think that's a perfectly fine argument. She has dealt with it directly. Like, yeah, there's always going to be kids that see Blair White that might decide, I should transition because of Blair White. Is that her fault? Can she really be held responsible for that? Like, what's the solution? Trans people never speak on the fucking internet? Obviously, that's not going to happen. So yeah, I think that's a perfectly fine answer.
that Blair White transes any kids, that she makes them be trans.
Me, but I'm probably the most vocal anti-children transitioning person on the internet.
This is, I think, a pretty bad argument. I'm not trying to say here that Blair White transes any kids, that she makes them be trans. But at the same time—
well, no one is. It's that she might influence them. And quite possibly she does.
let's not be naive, pretend that representation doesn't matter. Blair White is a young, attractive, successful, engaged trans woman who tons of young people no doubt look up to. That is important on its face. She implicitly tells her audience in every one of her videos, yes, I am trans, and that's okay. This doesn't mean that Blair White generally makes good points or that she does more good than harm, but yes, she does normalize being trans.
Is that up to you to decide? Maybe take a fucking shower and then come back to me. I don't know. Like, why did he film looking like this? No offense. Oh, sorry, I'm not meant to make fun of people's appearances. I'm so sorry, Big Joel.
Trans to some extent, and I wouldn't be surprised at all if some little trans teen from a conservative family watched her videos and felt like they could be themselves without shame. Ultimately,
well, someone watching you will be unwilling to question your past opinions and listen to others who speak with authority despite having zero compelling evidence. A good example. Oh, thank you. I'm glad.
in some sense, Lauren is right. If Blair did detransition, grow out a mustache, and tell her audience that being trans is something that can and should be fixed, it would send a much more hostile, much more anti-trans message than the one she—
I don't think that's what she's trying to say. I think she's trying to say it's a bad look that we've got trans people out here on the internet arguing for our stuff and potentially influencing kids to be trans. I think she's much more saying that, personally.
currently sends. That's just a fact. So if the argument that Blair uses here is a bad one, or at least not a particularly strong one, why does she use it? What purpose?
Wait, has he shown how it's a bad argument? Have I missed it? Am I going crazy? Has he said shit the entire time?
Her audience— in some sense, Lauren is right. If Blair did detransition, grow out a mustache, and some little trans teen from a conservative family watched her videos and felt like they could be—
what's this creepy grin, by the way? Sorry, I'm being nice.
themselves without shame. Ultimately, in some sense, Lauren is right. If Blair did detransition, grow out a mustache, and tell her audience that being trans is something that can and should be fixed, it would send a much more hostile, much more anti-trans message than the one she currently sends. That's just a fact. So if the argument that—
okay, I don't really think that's what Lauren was saying.
Blair uses here is a bad one, or at
You haven't shown this.
least not a particularly strong one,
You haven't shown that either.
why does she use it? What purpose does it serve?
Because what she's being charged with is that kids are looking at her and thinking they should be trans too, which is bad if you're a fundamentalist Christian conservative because you don't believe in any of that shit. She's saying, well, I speak out against that shit. So they ought not to be doing that, really. It doesn't really make much sense that they should. I don't see what's wrong with that argument.
And I think the answer to that is fairly simple. It's a way of avoiding the challenge at hand. The problem with Witzke's claim here lies in its first step. She thinks trans people are bad, and that's not true. Trans people are fine. And to the extent that Blair White does normalize that belief, it's a good thing, actually.
Blair not also label himself as male? Maybe, I can't remember, to be honest. I'm sure she's probably said as much in what is it, in interviews and so on.
But Blair doesn't want to advocate for that position because doing so would make her appear anti-conservative, okay with the trans people. And in fact—
what, she's not going to say, oh no, trans people are good, not bad. Would that be a compelling argument in this case? I don't see why it would.
Blair seems almost desperate to not be seen as a person who supports trans people on
Why can't Blair just say what I want her to say?
any level. Let's watch some more of that awful clip.
As I said earlier, whether anyone on this panel likes it or wants to acknowledge it, there's a really huge chunk of LGBT people who are very much against ideas like children transitioning, like trans women in biological women's sports.
He acknowledges that the debate was full of bigotry against Blair, but doesn't consider that might cause stress in giving an immediate answer. Yeah, that's true. He's not empathizing with her whatsoever.
and all of the ideas that are, hot talking points, but they're very real at the same time. So,
By the way, I hope I don't talk about this as much as I should. I think people on the same side as like Big Joel frequently lack empathy and want to excuse lacking empathy for certain kinds of people. I don't know whether that's true of Big Joel personally, but I've observed it in a lot of different people.
I don't think many kids would look at my YouTube videos and want to do anything like me because I explicitly have been very known for saying that it's not a glamorous lifestyle, that it's difficult, and that children shouldn't be allowed to transition because it can often be a mistake that really damages their life. So I don't know, I just felt like that was a false premise. And again, I would like to agree.
Like, the truth is, nothing is going to be good enough for this Lauren Witzke person. So I don't really know what the point in trying to argue that trans people are good, actually. You know what I mean? I'd be blown away to see a breadtuber empathize. Yeah, me too. I'm sure there's some that do, but fuck. I mean, fuck, actually. Maybe I'll watch it again and think differently, but I felt that the ContraPoints video about incels, she actually made an effort to understand the people rather than just shitting on them. And that was actually good, to be fair. But hey, I haven't watched it in a while.
Blair White does here is just incomprehensible weasel language, isn't it? Language that refuses to acknowledge the—
What? I'm a bit shook by that one. Fuck me.
on any level. Let's watch.
I'm Big Joel. Anyway.
Some more of that awful clip.
As I said earlier, whether anyone on this panel likes it or wants to acknowledge it, there's a really huge chunk of LGBT people who are very much against.
Wait, she's making the argument that he's complaining she didn't make. Actually, not all trans people are like the way you say they are. God, man, like, oh. No wonder he played this after he already said all that shit, so he doesn't have to, like, fucking acknowledge anything now, presumably. Let's see.
Ideas like children transitioning, like trans women in biological women's sports, and all of the ideas that are, hot talking points, but they're very real at the same time. So I don't think many kids would look at my YouTube videos and want to do anything like me because I explicitly have been very known for saying that it's not a glamorous lifestyle, that it's difficult, and that children shouldn't be allowed to transition because it can often be a mistake.
This is fairly clear, I think, at the point that she's making. Not all trans people are down with all the weird shit that you all are upset about. And I speak out against this shit. Her claims are pretty obvious and pretty easy to understand. I don't know why Big Joel is having a problem.
Mistake that really damages their life. So I don't know, I just felt like that was a false premise. And again, I would like.
Yeah, she's like literally arguing with what this person's saying. It's probably not going to matter because I think nothing is good enough for this person, but what the fuck is Joel saying?
What Blair White does here is just incomprehensible weasel language, isn't it?
Incomprehensible. I think I summed up her argument pretty easily. I don't think I'm stupid, but I don't think I'm like a fucking mega genius. And it wasn't hard for me to understand what she was saying. Do you understand?
Language that refuses to acknowledge the actual position of the person she's talking to. Lauren Witzke.
No. She said plenty of LGBT people don't actually agree with a lot of the weird degenerate shit. She literally did, you fucking loser. What are you fucking talking about? Actual cretin behavior.
Witzke is not interested in some trans moderate position. She is against the franchise of trans people existing, full stop. And Blair just sits there, repeating the points she makes in her videos, trying to convince this woman that they are essentially on.
Is she trying to convince, or is she putting arguments contra to the arguments being put against her? Because there's a difference. And it doesn't fucking matter sometimes whether you're not convincing, whether or not you are convincing the person you're speaking to. Because there's a whole load of people watching. There's a whole load of people watching, plenty of whom might have Lauren Witzke's perspective, that might not realize that some trans people are actually against the stuff that they're against. And that might change their mind a little bit. So it's like, I don't think Joel understands debate. And no wonder he's calling it the fiction of conservative debate, because he doesn't understand what's going on here. He has no idea.
On the same side. I agree with you about children transitioning, about trans women in sports. I never advertise being trans.
No, not just I, but other LGBTQ plus people. It's literally what she said.
As something that is fundamentally okay. Am I conservative enough for you, Lauren? Have I proven that I am worthy of being a conservative in your world? Blair is not dissenting here. No, she is agreeing with Lauren to the best of her abilities.
No, she's dissenting. She's saying that every trans person doesn't think the way you think they do. Jesus Christ.
We can see the same kind of dodgy language happening with
No, I think what he actually wanted her to do was start soying out and calling her transphobic, to be honest. That seems to be what most people who reacted to this debate. I have a feeling I should just go through every react I can find of this debate. A lot of them were just giving her shit for like not standing up for herself, supposedly, which I think she is doing. And I think in the context of what's going on here, the fact that it might actually be quite fucking stressful for her, like, I don't know why no one's considering what we're seeing here and what she's up against. Like, I think she's doing an okay job from the clips presented.
With the main subject of the debate, on where the Conservative Party should go. Over and over again, John Doyle and Lauren Witzke say that to them, conservatism means social conservatism. The party against gay marriage, against trans people, against equality. This is why they are conservatives. Carlin argues against this point a bit, at least she sort of starts to.
I am straight as an arrow. I'm married to a dude. Between the two of us, I'm the one that's actually married with the family. And so I will say that I absolutely will not vote for a party that treats LGBT people like they are subhuman. I won't do it.
But Blair never addresses the substantive issue here, never actually makes a case against having a platform of hatred and oppression. No,
Well, she doesn't think it's a platform of hatred and oppression. What?
I absolutely will not vote for a party that treats LGBT people like they are subhuman. I won't do it.
But Blair never addresses the substantive issue here, never actually makes a case against having a platform of hatred and oppression. No, she, and for the most part Carlin, just kind of assume that everything these guys want is fine and make one point.
Is that true?
If you want to get votes, it's better to not alienate potential voters, better to not be bigoted.
I don't think you have to pander. I think you just don't have to try to exclude people. I think that just loses votes. And so, again, it just goes back to, you guys can't wield any of this power you
Oh, good to see you, Hopper. Hope you're good.
say you want to wield if you're not going to win elections. You're just not. And I don't know. I just think it's just kind of silly to go on about this argument that certain people need to be excluded because all it's
Hi, Porno9. I hope you're good.
doing is telling people not to vote for you. And I also would say, Trump got the most votes of any setting president in history. I think that's true. I think there's a reason for that. I think what I spoke to earlier was the push towards more secularism. And I think that while social conservatives and religious conservatives still voted Trump because it was the right direction, and like you said, they did make a lot of excuses and compromises on their beliefs. I think Trump really, and Trumpism is the future of the party and the future of success. Minority groups don't necessarily win elections now. Over time, they very well could.
Again, this is a really weird argument. As I just said,
It really isn't. Include more people, get more votes. Very, very simple argument. Very easy to understand. I have no idea what is going on in this guy's head to make him have this much trouble with what he's watching here.
Witzke and Doyle are conservatives because of the bigotry. A political war fought without social authoritarianism as its aim wouldn't be worth fighting to them. You can say as many times as you want that appealing to gay people would get Republicans more votes, but that would mean appealing to gay people, something they do not want to do.
It kind of seems like there's a lot more appealing to gay people going on in like right-wing circles these days. And we're taking two fairly extreme examples, being John Doyle and Lauren Witzke, and kind of defining the whole thing around them. That doesn't really make any sense to me. Like, they're not the standard. They're not the standard of like the Republican Party by any means. They're kind of an extreme like wing of it, if anything.
Are we going to be the party moving forward? Are we going to be the party that compromises on our values that got us this far? Or are we going to stand firm on issues like family, restoring the nuclear family, getting dads back into the home?
I mean, is this what Trump has been like doing, really? That Trump is pro-gay marriage, yeah. I have criticism of Blair, but you can't deny that Blair does 100% better PR for trans people than BreadTube. Yep, I agree. A lot of BreadTube is mystifying, quite frankly. But hey, it appealed to me as well. The reason it appealed to me was because they were saying the right thing, and I wasn't intelligent enough at the time to really question, you know what I mean? It takes a lot to kind of get out of when you get into one of those ruts and you just believe everything everyone says, as long as they're saying what feels good to you. It takes quite a lot to get out of that kind of rut. So, I don't know.
Re-legalizing conversion therapy, which they've stripped parental rights, where children now can't even go to get therapy if they choose to
Like, is Trump for any of this?
change their mind.
In other words, Blair
It kind of seems like what these people on the right are talking about is really not where the Republican Party has ended up by 3 and a bit years later. But okay.
invents an argument about vote-getting tactics, about the way conservatives can get the most power, and in doing so, she gets to avoid a conversation she clearly doesn't want to have. A conversation about if conservatism, at least John Doyle and Lauren Witzke's conservatism, is good.
Yeah, he finally says it. their conservatism. Yes, that's infinitely better. Why'd you wait until most of the video to finally fucking say that?
In this debate, then, we can see how a surface-level tension between Blair White and Lauren Witzke betrays a much more real and meaningful sense of consensus. Lauren, with her bluntness and anger and cruelty, says some out-there claim, and Blair, with her evocation and subtlety and bad argumentation, essentially
bad argumentation. It's rich coming from Big Joel. This is bad argumentation, the fucking video, so I don't know.
Works on her defense. Throughout the conversation, she constantly implies that Lauren is mostly
Purple Nightshade, I'm the same. Like, I never was, like, both foot in, but I was fairly woke until about a couple of years ago, honestly.
right, that her politics are, at the very least, acceptable. In the moment, this all looks big and conflicted, and
he's, like, so, like, smug about it. He loves the fact that, in his mind, Blair White has failed here. He's so happy about this. He probably hates Blair White more than anyone else there, because she's trans and a conservative. Am I trans? Yes. Hi, Lumpy Willy.
Important, but it doesn't add up to anything. It's not a debate. It's not conservative Christians battling
Well, no, it is a debate. They're arguing. That's what a debate is.
LGBT Republicans. No, it's a focus group. I'd like to end this video with some general claim. Say something about conservatives as a whole.
And he's ending the video now, so what points did he make, honestly? I can't even remember. This is the stupidest thing I've ever watched. This is the kind of shit that I'd probably have put on at some point during the time that I was working from home in COVID when I was a letting agent. And I wouldn't even hear most of it because I was spending most of the time focusing on what I'm actually supposed to be fucking doing. And then be like, yeah, he's probably right. Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure. He's pro-trans, right? You're pro-trans, then you're probably right. That's the kind of shit that this exists for, quite honestly. And it's had over 1 million views. 1.1 million views. For what? What analysis have we seen? This person doesn't understand fucking anything of what he's seen, in my opinion.
How they work, what sorts of discourse they use. But I haven't evidenced any of that, haven't talked about conservatives in general.
And by the way, he's shown very specific clips. So if we were to see the whole thing, might we see more actual back and forth? Might we see more actual argument? I can't remember. I haven't seen the whole thing in a long time. But you got to consider that. You got to consider what they're showing you and, more importantly, what they're not showing you.
Only thing we've talked about is this one horrible video, right? And because of that, I'll just leave you here with one humble note. After this conversation, some rando made this tweet. This is exactly the look that everybody watching has while having to listen to the two on the other side of the screen. Carlin quickly quote tweeted it, saying, "I actually didn't think John Doyle was that bad, except when he went on autopilot and said I quoted a verse about homosexuality when I didn't, but he totally expected that if a liberal quoted the Bible, that's what I'd go for. Other than that, it's okay to be Christian." And Blair replied with this. The difference between John and the other woman is that he simply had a religious worldview. He wasn't.
This is true as far as I know. Like, Lauren Witzke was, like, aggressive with it. And, like, Blair White took it in stride. And who's more relevant in today's world? Lauren Witzke or Blair White? Like, Blair White won the fuck out of this, unfortunately. Unfortunately for Joel, anyway. He seems to really fucking not like Blair White for reasons he's not really articulated very well. Spent a video yelling at Shoe on Head for saying pedophilia is bad. Oh my god. Doesn't surprise me.
Wasn't disrespectful. She weaponized her religion to hurl personal attacks.
Sorry, I'm pausing a lot. Responses to Shoe on Head is something I might want to look into. Like, I still remember Shoe on Head talking about Balenciaga, and then Xander Howell saying, oh, you can't talk about that because sometimes trans people are called pedophiles. No one was talking about trans people until fucking Xander Howell came in. And then fucking Demon Mama comes in supporting Xander Howell. So now there is a trans person kind of making the pedophile discourse about trans. And then they claim that she's the one, like, pedo-jacketing. When 100% they were the ones introducing trans into the mix on that one. It was nuts.
She's clearly hurting as a person. I didn't walk away hurt or offended, but sad for her. This is absolutely bonkers, isn't it? The only word I can use to describe it.
No, that's not bonkers. I think maybe you should have had a conversation with her before coming up with her beliefs for her the way you consistently have, quite frankly.
It is bonkers. Like, sure, I agree that on some abstract level, it's okay to be a Christian.
Like, smug fucking shit. Like, I'm allergic to this shit nowadays. I hope I don't come across this way. I hope I'm not constantly, like, fucking condescendingly putting people down the way this fucking guy does. Because this actually disgusts me. Just by itself. Just the look on his face, all alone.
I'm not trying to convert anybody, and I don't get mad when somebody loves Jesus. That's fine. But this is just a way of muddying the waters, obviously. John Doyle is not just a Christian. He is a Christian.
Muddying the waters. That is rich from this guy. That is rich as fuck from this guy. All he's doing is muddying the waters. I understand what I saw much easier by myself. And then everything he said made it more confusing.
Is just a way of muddying the waters, obviously. John Doyle is not just a Christian. He is a Christian authoritarian. He
Oh, man.
said out loud that he doesn't like the idea of letting gay people be gay privately together because we live in a society and this behavior shouldn't be encouraged.
But you seem to be alluding to this idea of like,
Yeah, but where's it coming from? It's coming from his like religious beliefs, right?
the individual in their private home and things like that, when you talk about, people living in a free society to do what they want and not.
And he's expressing his beliefs. It was Lauren that was going on the offensive with it, saying, grow your mustache out and stop talking to anyone.
Causing any problems. But what's interesting about that is that was the argument that during the movements in the 1960s and 70s.
Like, this is the clip you're going with? What's he saying exactly?
Including the sexual revolution, that allowed a lot of this stuff to have a seat at the table, which ultimately would usurp power away from traditional Americans and traditional social conservatives. And I just think that that's basically a myth, because there's really no such thing as a private individual in the privacy of their own home, because you are one person. And so any actions that you take in your house are ultimately going to reflect you.
Listen, this must be the worst example he can come up with, because he scripted this video, he chopped up the clips and found the ones that he wanted to use in his video. Blair White is correct. He's not, like, weaponizing this shit the way that she is. He's making his points, he's saying what he believes. Lauren Witzke was going on the attack against Blair White. That's the difference. She's not muddying any waters. Joel is trying to muddy the waters.
And how you conduct yourself in the real world.
Every time he has the chance, he gasses up Lauren Witzke. At least within the confines of this conversation, he endorsed.
They're on the same side. What the fuck is your deal, bro? They're on the same side. Yeah, he's probably gonna gas her up a bit. They have similar beliefs. That wasn't what Blair was talking about. So what waters are being muddied exactly?
Her completely. And yet, Lauren is bad because she is cruel and belittling, and Doyle is fine because he says the exact same fucking things in a more polite tone.
I think he probably doesn't understand that someone like Blair White probably hears a fair amount of things that people like John Doyle say, and is probably more desensitized to them. And she sticks around because she actually believes in the thing that she says, you know what I mean? She actually believes her own shit.
The very concept of meaningful, principled, ideological disagreement is here thrown so far out the window that it becomes a mockery of itself. Whatever sense of
Point were we actually making again? Like, she's just talking about like how he wasn't so bad compared to, like, just adds in so much shit, so much unnecessary, unasked for shit.
Because he says the exact same fucking things in a more polite tone. The very concept of meaningful, principled, ideological
Does he? You've shown us very little. Have I even heard John Doyle speak very much? I think it was just this bit. Was it Sean that was super upset that conservatives were kind and polite to him in his DMs? I don't know, but that sounds like something he'd do. That Sean guy actually fucking sucks. I used to like his videos again. I didn't watch them very often because, let's be honest, he's boring as shit. But like, I watched something recently. I think it was about J.K. Rowling or something. The entire thing was just guilt by association. Just lining up one guilt by association after another. She's friends with Maya Forstater. She's friends with Magdalene Burns. She's friends with, like, just shut up. If you have to spend 35 minutes fucking bloviating about who someone's friends with, you probably don't have much of an actual point.
disagreement is here thrown so far out the window that it becomes a mockery of itself. Whatever sense of conflict and drama we might feel as we...
By the way, I don't think Big Joel has or has ever done like any kind of debates. He does not know what he's talking about whatsoever.
watch the conversation is revealed to be manufactured, incoherent. We don't actually care what you believe, and we never did. The concept of meaningful, principled, ideological disagreement is here thrown so far out the window that...
And like, the snobbery comes out in full force as well. It's radiating off of him. He loves that he can make himself out to be better than someone else. It's so palpable.
it becomes a mockery of itself. Whatever sense of conflict and drama we might feel as we watch the conversation is revealed to be manufactured, incoherent. We don't actually care what you believe, and we never did. It's fine to be Christian.
Yep, then everyone repeats Sean's BS in their Turfs of Fascist video. Yeah, a lot of these people that are like authoritative in like the trans rights movement, they're just idiot YouTubers. Most of them fucking suck. Like, I don't know who the good like pro-trans progressives are. Because none of them will fucking talk to me. So it's like, okay, I'm going to have to make up my own minds based on what you say in your videos and stuff like that. What I make up my mind about is not necessarily going to be very flattering, because there's a lot of shit I don't agree with progressives on anymore. You know what I mean?
And I don't know, something about that just rings really true for me. Hey everybody, thanks so much for watching my video. I know it was a bit dark, and of conflict and drama we might feel as we watch the conversation is revealed to be manufactured, incoherent. We don't actually care what you believe, and we never did. It's fine to be Christian. And I don't know.
Okay, there is no way that that is an apt summary of this entire conversation. You've shown nothing. I love how angry he is about Christianity and never say that shit about Islam or any other religion. Yep. If you're a American leftist atheist, you hate Christianity, you're extremely quiet on Islam for some reason.
No, something about that just rings really true for me. Hey everybody, thanks so much.
Something about his own fucking...
Incoherent. We don't actually care what you believe, and we never did. It's fine to be Christian. And I don't know, something about that just rings really true for me.
Something about that incredibly essentialized version of something you haven't shown rings true for you. What an amazing sentence. Well done, Big Joel. That's the worst thing I've seen in fucking time. Congratulations, you've earned my like. By the way, make sure you like the stream. I'm just going to keep watching stuff, because I don't know. Viewership's good today. I appreciate all of you. I love all of you.